What is at the source of this miracle that we experienced? Of this return of the Jewish people to Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh, to Hebron, to Shiloh, to Beit El, to Elon Moreh, to where our nation was born, in 6 miraculous days. This past Shabbat, for those who were in Beit Knesset, you recall that we read the Tochecha, the harsh rebuke of the Jewish people by their Creator for doing the wrong things. And in the context of this rebuke, of this Tochecha, there's a theme that repeats itself again and again. It's the term morech. Morech is weakness. Morech is fear. Morech is trepidation. Morech is an enervated personality. A fatigued, scared, little personality. And that's part of the curse. But look to what extent this fear and trepidation, look to the extent to which it goes. V'hanisharim bachem, and those of you who remain, it's harsh. We're talking here about mini holocausts here. V'hanisharim bachem, those who remain. Ve'eveti morech bilvavam. Now we'll bring this fear into their hearts, this weakness into their hearts. Ba'artzot oivehem, in the lands of their enemies. Now listen closely. V'radaf otam kol ale nidaf. And a kol ale, literally the voice of the sound of a leaf, will chase them. V'nasu menusat cherev, and they will run as if they're running from the sword. Ve'en rodef, nobody's chasing them. And we just celebrated Lag BaOmer, and there's a beautiful, there's an appropriate Midrash, Yalkut Shimoni, that tells a story of Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, a student of Rabbi Akiva who led the revolt against Rome, whose students died fighting against Rome. The essence of Lag BaOmer. Follow me. V'rodaf otam kol ale nidaf. That's the verse in the Torah. Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha. Pam achat, once upon a time, hayinu yoshvim tachat ha'ilan. We were sitting underneath a tree. V'nashva haruach, and the wind blew. Ve'itichu alim ze bazeh, and the wind sent the leaves clashing one against the other. Ve'amadnu, and we got up. Ve'ratznu, and we ran away. Ve'amarnu oy lanu, and we said, oy vavoy lanu, higiunu parashim. The soldiers, the Roman soldiers are coming to get us. Lachar sha'a, an hour passed. Nifninu lachorenu, and we turned around. We looked back. V'ra'inu she'en adam sham. We saw there's nobody there. V'yashavnu bachinu, and we sat and we cried. Ve'amarnu oy lanu, woe is to us. Nitkayem alenu mikra shekatuv b'torah v'radaf otam kol ale nidaf. V'nasu menusat cherev mipnei ema. V'naflu ve'en rodef mebli koach. The verse in the Tochecha, the verse in the rebuke, has been fulfilled. We run when there's nobody to run from. What should have happened in 1946? What should have happened in 1948? What should have happened in 1967? If we were to go into the faculty of sociology, of social psychology, of anthropology, in any university in the world, and ask them, what will now be of the Jewish people? The Jewish people of which 1/3 was annihilated in Auschwitz. What will be with them? what would any sociologist have answered? The fear of being alive would prevent any kind of national rehabilitation. Who would think that the Jewish people would continue to exist after 1945? And two great philosophers of the 20th century, one a leading Orthodox philosopher, one a leading Reform, said the same thing. On the one hand, Professor Emil Fackenheim writes that after the Holocaust, there's a 614th mitzvah. Not to give Hitler a posthumous victory. To stay alive. To fight those who would take our lives away. And that he saw in the creation of the State of Israel. And Rav Soloveitchik of sainted memory writes that just as we say in the Haggadah, on Leil HaSeder, that if Hashem didn't take us out of Egypt at that particular moment, if at that moment God didn't take us out of Egypt, we would have continued to be slaves in Egypt, meaning the Jewish experiment would have been nada, wouldn't have existed, would have been all over. So too, writes Soloveitchik, we must say after the creation of the State of Israel, that had it not been created in 1948, after the Holocaust, it would have been over. And before 1967, we were living in Auschwitz borders. Independence wasn't achieved in 1948. Independence was achieved in 1967, when our capital city was reunited, when the cities of our forefathers were liberated, when we came back home in a miracle. And we came back home in a miracle because that miracle was predicated on a different miracle. It was predicated on the miracle of doing away with this fear. The rebuke is over when we end it. When God gives us the souls that enable us to shove that fear aside and be brave. Think about it. We're in a period now, Pesach to Shavuot. It's an amazing period. 49 days, and it's one Chag, and it's one commemorative day after another. Each day, by the way, is counted, Sfirat HaOmer. Each day is special. The connection of our national liberation and the giving of our national identity, the Torah, has to be connected. We can't have one without the other. Some people think we can have independence without Torah. Some people think we can have Torah without independence. They go together. We connect them. We count each day between Pesach and Shavuot. But in this period, what do we have? Yom HaAtzmaut, and Yom HaShoah, and Lag BaOmer, and Yom Yerushalayim, every week, till Shavuot. But the whole process is started by what, friends? What starts this whole process rolling? What's the Shabbat before Pesach called? Shabbat HaGadol. And why is the Shabbat called Shabbat HaGadol? Was it because of a particular miracle that took place in Mitzrayim? Shabbat HaGadol, the great Shabbat. There's no other Shabbat that's called Shabbat HaGadol. Think of all the miracles in Egypt. Think of them. But Shabbat HaGadol is called Shabbat HaGadol because a people that should have been annihilated showed bravery. They took the gods of Egypt and they tied them to the bedpost. And when the Egyptians said, "What are you going to do with our God? These sheep?" The Jews looked at them in the eye, to their slave masters, and they said, "We're going to shech them. We're going to bring it as a korban to the real God, not your fake God." A nation that should have cowered in fear rose and showed no fear. That's the miracle. The miracle of Yom Yerushalayim is 6 days unprecedented in the annals of human history. But that miracle is predicated on a people that showed no fear, that rose from what should have been the dead, that said, "We can." because we must. Because that is our lot in Jewish destiny. And today too, when we face this challenge, when nations of the world who should be standing with us side by side to prevent this menace are cowering and showing fear, it is the Jewish people, the state of Israel, that must say, it is our Yom Yerushalayim. It is the spirit of our Yom Yerushalayim which will enable you to overcome the threat of annihilation.